Hello, everyone. Now, so welcome everyone that's here. Welcome, call in. You guys that have called in, and I'm happy to be here. This is Pure Presence Book Club, and we are live with Kimberly Cartwright. Hello, Kimberly.
Hi. Hi, Bill. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. Um,
Thank you.
so glad to be in this energy.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Hmm.
Even in the last minute stuff, I'm looking at my own energy and I'm seeing a little nervousness, a little anxious energy that's happening because, of course, there's like there's 80 people that are saying, "Where's the broadcast? What what happened to the broadcast?" And no one is there because the automated system is acting like it's already happened, so you can't get into it. And so that's why we have this broadcast right here. And we'll just get going. And what we'll do is we'll give a replay for this one to everyone that's on the mailing list so that they can have the opportunity to join us later on. There's 11 people that did figure it out, and I'm just grateful for you guys that were able to get here and be with us. I wish it wasn't. Yeah, welcome from. Oh, you're from Austin. I didn't realize you were from Austin, William. Welcome, Mary and William and Catherine. Welcome, and Jacqueline and George. Welcome, everyone. And you guys that have called in, welcome. I have Wilhelm, Rainery, uh, King Don, a cell phone, Gay Lisa Gay, that must be Arthur, Ellis, and Verdon, and Andrea frase. And I just want to welcome everyone to our live broadcast. And I'm glad you guys were able to, the cool thing is that if you had the link and your video didn't allow you to come on, your audio is the same. So your audio link definitely is working. And I just want to get into the meat of this week's uh, content. And it looks like, where did you go? Where, you went off the air, Kimberly. Where'd you go? Uh,
I don't know.
so I want to get into the meat of this week's content. And only awareness is aware. And I love it. This is where everything happens. In my mind,
Mm.
this is everything. And you guys that know this, and I know I'm speaking to everyone here. Awareness is the secret. Awareness is right here. It's so close to us. It's closer than our breath because it's our identity. It's what we are, is pure awareness. And to have the understanding that is offered by Rupert is, for me, it's opened me up to just a clearer understanding to what the course is pointing to. It's opened me up to not only understand the course brand new, but also it's allowed me to understand the experience that the course is offering. And it's not mental. It's the experience of being. It's the experience of awareness as awareness. And I can tell from my own experience that uh, that this information that is given to us by Rupert it's almost like the consciousness consciousness knows the truth because it is the truth, but it takes a little bit of it's sort of a marinating experience for me for my understanding to fully get it so that I feel it. Do you know what I mean, Kimberly? Do you have the experience that the words that Rupert gives you when you read a paragraph, and there's just some there's this essence there, and it sort of comes in, and then all of a sudden you go, oh wow, yes. Do you have that experience?
Yes, I have that experience, and I call it the consumption digestion experience. So when I'm either my preferred way of taking in Rupert or wi- wisdom teaching is through seeing and hearing. Reading is not my preferred way, but whether I'm seeing, hearing, or reading, the first the first wave, the first reception of the information, I call consumption. So I first take it in, and then what I think what you're talking about, Bill, is there's a little gap between the consumption and the digestion of the information. So there's a period where, especially what Rupert is talking about, because it can't be turned into an object in the mind. What Rupert is saying essentially is that he's using words to point to something that's beyond words. And for that reason, my normal process of consuming objective information doesn't work with this. It's just like when I'm with A Course in Miracles. My normal way of consuming, perception and sensation doesn't apply because these are pointing to something that's non-objective. So there's this gap. When I allow the relaxation of this mind machine and I move into digestion, to the actual direct experience of what this is, that's when I have the experience of I get it. Like I get it after I stop trying to understand it and consume it, and I let myself digest it. And that's when I actually have the experience to which me, but it's different than just reading a book. We're not reading a book. We're 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 allowing a portal. We're entering through a portal to an experience, and we can't take ourselves with us. So there's as Jesus as Jesus always says, you can't fit the camel through the eye of the needle, or he talks about the narrow gate. So both of these are references to, a rich man can't get to heaven. All of these are ways that Jesus's consciousness is trying to give us ways of looking at that which we cannot take with us, the truth.
Your audio is cutting out, and I think your signal may be a little distorted there, Kimberly.
Hey, Bill, what happens if I take myself off of my headphones? What happens then? Can I just go straight off of my audio from my computer?
Maybe, but I think it's your internet.
It probably is my internet.
If you take yourself off of the audio, off of your earbuds, I think it'll create an echo for everyone else, because then your speakers will be going into your microphone at the same time, and it'll create an echo.
Okay.
So that I tried that with Rupert once, and we had to shut down the whole webinar because it didn't work.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I love what you just said, Kimberly, and just for the you guys that are here, just they're listening and watching. If Kimberly cuts out, I'm going to wait for her to stop to come back, and then I'll let her know that there's an audio problem. But it has to be an internet connection. You must be further away, like at the edge of your router, your wireless router situation. So you're probably at the edge of your internet band.
Well, even though I'm gonna move closer to my router
Okay.
for the sake of everybody. Okay, I'm just gonna try that.
And you guys that are listening online, we have about a dozen people that are listening. Thank you for calling in and being with us on your smartphone or through your internet that way. We had a last minute switch because of the automated email that went out on the system last night, and it like it acted like the event already happened. So I sent an emergency link to everyone about 20 minutes ago, 5 minutes before the webcast started, so that you could join us as viewers. And the guys that had links to call in, they used the same call-in link that they already had, so you guys were able to get in anyway. So thank you all for joining us live. And if you want to raise your hand, we'll take calls in about 10 minutes, and you either press the button that says raise hand or *2, and you'll be able to join us in this conversation on the the topic for this week, which is only awareness is aware. And I don't know if you guys know that Rupert just published a new book that just came out. That awareness is aware. Awareness is aware, and it's a small little book. I have it around here somewhere. I'll show it to you if I can lay my hands on it. But I love the topic. This is like my favorite all-time topic because I knew there was something with awareness years ago. I mentioned this with when Rupert was on the show, and I mentioned it. I'll probably mention it many times along the way because awareness, in my mind, and you guys know this also, awareness is everything. Awareness is everything. And Kimberly, I love the way you just described you call it consumption digestion. Consumption, because some of this stuff is pretty heavy. Some of it's pretty not heavy in that it takes me a little bit to get my mind wrapped around it. Like there was a part at the end of this week's uh, topic, just right before the end of the book, that starts talking about the consciousness and awareness of fleas, right? It starts talking about that that if he says this is on the bottom of page 26. I'm just going to read this one part just to give an example of my point. It says time and space are in fact dimensionless, and Troy mentioned this online in Facebook. And thank you all for all you guys that have joined in on the comments on Facebook. Thank you, Susan and Troy and Patty and Andrea and Catherine and Jenny and William and just everyone that has joined in on Facebook. Thank you for participating in that way, because there's 112, 110, 112 people in that group, and a lot of people are getting a lot of support through your putting your comments and your helpful ideas right there on Facebook. But in this paragraph, this is one that it took me a little bit to wrap my mind around this one. It says, time and space are in fact dimensionless. Awareness refracted through the prism of the finite mind, that is, refracted through thought and perception. They are the filters through which awareness perceives its own reality in the form of the world. if reality is refracted through the mind of a flea, it will appear in accordance with the limitations of a flea's mind. If through the mind of a dog, in accordance with the limitations of a dog's mind. And if through the mind of a human being, in accordance with the limitations of a human mind. And when I read that, I'm thinking to myself, so I want to get in touch with, okay, wait a minute, consciousness, awareness is no different from a flea or an ant, and probably even a tree, as it is with the awareness that is present in this one. The awareness is the absolute non-dual allness of isness. And so the same thing that is telling a tree or informing a tree of the season of what season it is so that it grows buds or the leaves fall or it's cold or it's hot. That same intelligence of awareness is present in the tree or the flea. I needed a little bit of of digestion, as you said, consumption digestion, to to get my mind around that idea. And I really love that idea because I know it's true. I know that because I've had this experience. I've talked about this experience years ago when I actually saw I saw myself in a rock. I I, I was in Portugal at Sahaja, and I realized that not only in a rock, but in a plate, in a table, in all forms of objects, all of a sudden I realized that each one of those objects was seeing itself through these eyes. For this experience that I was having, I was actually one with these inanimate objects, and I was experiencing the seeing of it as it. And it was just like this crazy mystical experience that I had, and I'm connecting with these ideas, and I'm wanting to go a little deeper, just in understanding, not to you know to not to fantasize or to make it like this big mystical experience, but there's there's a real experience happening, and this is why when you become awakened, this is why when you find yourself in your true experience, your true nature, this is why, for me, I don't like to kill bugs anymore. It bothers me to kill bugs. I start talking to them. I say, oh man, I'm so sorry, before I smash them, but I think that pretty soon I'm going to stop smashing them because I'm not going to want to mess with that being. That awareness is just a reflection. He's me, or she, or it is me. And I don't know what we have one hand up, and I'll get back to that hand, but from I want to hear from you, Kimberly. What is your what is
Yeah.
your take on all of this?
Well, first, I want to acknowledge what you were saying about the density with which this book is written. Like a sentence or two can go a long way. I To continue with the consumption and digestion metaphor, reading Rupert's book is like eating creme brulee or flan. Like when you order creme brulee, they just give you this little container of it. Like if you order the brownie sundae, it comes in this huge bowl, huge bowl. But if you order creme brulee, you just get a little because it's so rich. You eat it a little at a time. And the which conveys these ideas is meant to be consumed, in my experience, like creme brulee. I take some and I savor it and I let it go down slowly so that I can enjoy it. I can't force feed myself creme brulee or I'll be sick. It's too rich. So I just want to sort of really support you, Bill. That's my experience, is like a sentence or two is worthy of me pondering. And I actually heard Rupert say that when you interviewed him on the first segment of this show, of this book club. He described this as a contemplative experience. This book is contemplative. And I took that to mean an invitation to take in his ideas and allow them to marinate in me. So I'm not supposed to like read this like a novel.
Yeah.
I'm meant to really contemplate. So specific to the paragraph or what you were talking about, I made a couple of notes. I have been translating, when I read Rupert, I've been translating what Rupert says into A Course in Miracles. So it's like speaking two languages and just noticing how they're saying the same thing in each language. And that segment that you were referring to took me right to lesson 30. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And to me, what Rupert is saying is that rather than like A Course in Miracles says, real vision it's not limited, and that we're shifting from the perception that we've normally been using to vision, which has nothing to do with the eyes of the body. And what Rupert is inviting us to do is to begin to relinquish this seeing as a human and realize that the consciousness that is aware of seeing, there is no seeing, there is simply the awareness of seeing. Something is experiencing seeing. Something is experiencing, as William Price put in the comments, a rock is rocking, a tree is treeing, a flea is fleeing. There is a consciousness in which each of these is appearing, and that the invitation is for me to soften and relinquish the tightness around which I'm holding this idea of sight, so that I can begin to open to the consciousness of all, that there is just consciousness, of which the experience of this one is being experienced. That's what I'm getting from that paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good to laugh.
I know.
Yeah.
And I connect with your explanation. Sounds very clear, very very much in line with. In fact, Geert says that would be panpsychism, which is next week's chapter. It's chapter 3, and that's what it sounds like. It sounds like, but panpsychism, and we'll find out next week. Amy Torres will be a guest next week, and I'm sure she has a lot to say on this subject. But this is all of these ideas, in my mind, are helpful for me to understand the the experience that's being experienced, the the I don't know, the mind is actually somehow the mind is being expanded with this kind of information, and it's allowing me, the person, to have a more open-minded experience. And I have to say, I'm getting great joy. I'm finding myself like on fire with the excitement and inspiration of the truth. It just makes me, I mean, my meditations are getting deeper and more present. When I read content from, it doesn't matter what I'm reading, if it's the truth, it brings me into this place of experiencing the self in a much uh, a much more uh, I don't know. I don't even have words for it. It's just so full. It's just so present. It's almost like you can eat the ideas of being, something like that.
Hey, Bill, can I just add one thing about the panpsychism? I know you guys are going to talk about it next week, but just the most succinct distinction. Panpsychism says that a flea has consciousness, a rock has consciousness, a tree has consciousness. Non-duality says consciousness has a flea. Bodies that appear in it. In and of it, a body doesn't have consciousness. A tree doesn't have consciousness. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't muddying what you were saying in that paragraph that Rupert wrote, that I'm not saying what panpsychism says. I'm aligned with what Rupert is saying, that the appearance of this one is appearing in consciousness. As Rupert would say, it appears in consciousness, it's known by consciousness, and it's made of consciousness, which is different than panpsychism, which says that everything is conscious in itself.
Right.
So that's two different ways of seeing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, and thank you for making that clear. And I'm getting that also myself. I didn't know what panpsychism was until I saw it in chapter 3 in this book. And I have friends that believe that awareness is in the mind, and
Right.
and instead of the mind being in awareness, and that's a flip. And the you can help beings to see when they do a little investigation from there. But it first is a trap for the mind to believe that it is consciousness, and that's where the idea of separation began.
Yes.
Is the creation became its own creator, thinking that it created itself.
And I have heard Rupert in dialogue with people having to explain that the separate self will make a lifetime career out of trying to get rid of itself. So I'll speak for myself. I spent the first 20 years with the Course in Miracles as the ego, reading A Course in Miracles, trying to get rid of itself. I was engaged in panpsychism. I thought there's this consciousness called me, and this consciousness's job is to follow the instructions in A Course in Miracles to figure out how to get rid of itself.
Right.
And one could spend a whole lifetime doing that because the separate self is interested in preserving itself. So it will spiritualize itself, trying to stay relevant to the conversation. And the trick is, like I said, I can't take me with me where I'm going. The me can't go there. Uh, Awareness is non-objective. Everything that I am aware of, what I'm aware of, is an object. The only thing that's not an object, the only thing in our experience that is not an object is awareness itself. And that's why I cannot use my ego. I can't see awareness with my mind. I cannot see anything with the body's eyes because all that I'm seeing is objective consciousness. And my awareness is prior, it's prior to that objective consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. What before I pick up on with Andrea's got her hand up, I'd just like to hear, Kimberly, what is your, give me one of your highlights of this chapter. Do you have one that's
Sure. So two things. Let's see. I love what Rupert says about the screen. Okay, to me, that's such a clear way of understanding the experience that awareness is having. And
what page is that?
So that's on page 24. There are three little asterisks, and in the paragraph just below the asterisk.
Oh yeah.
Rupert is referring to a movie and saying that the character in the movie can never find or know the screen. Although that character, everything that character in the movie knows is made only of the screen. But as a character in the movie, the moment I take on the character of Kimberly, even though all I am made of is this limitless, eternal awareness, I become unable to access that reality because I have limited my consciousness to the limited and finite self. And I love that analogy because I think it was one of the first times when I feel like, oh, I get this. Like I finally get what Jesus has been saying in A Course in Miracles all along. My ego couldn't get it. It is like Rupert is saying, it's like a character in a movie running around the world searching in search of the screen.
Right.
I'll never find it.
Yeah.
Because the screen is all that it is. That's all that's going on. And I love that. And even though it's not directly related to this, it reminds me in A Course where Jesus says, the waking and the sleeping dreams take different forms, and that's all. Like there's nothing that I experience here is true. Even though it seems like I wake up every morning and here I am, this is reality, it's still the screen. It's still the movie. I'm still a character in a movie. And it reminds me that in order to know knowing, to know the knowing, I have to relax. Like I can run around the world. I can go to 100 lectures. I can read 100 books. I can spend, hours at the feet of a guru. But the only way for me to actually know the knowing is to step back, to fall backwards, is to relax into it, And that's the only way I can actually realize it's all the screen. It's only the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Well, I agree.
Amen.
And I have a favorite. I
Yeah,
have a
what's your
favorite.
favorite?
Well, I'm going to share it in a minute. I'm gonna take. Andrea's got her hand up. I'm just going to take her real quick, and then I'll share mine when I have time after we hear from Andrea. And anyone else that would like to join in with us, press hand up or *2 on your phone. And Andrea, I'm going to release the mic. The mic is all yours. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. We can hear you. Can you hear
Am I on
Andrea?
board?
You're on board. Yep.
Okay, so we're all aware of the awareness.
Yep. We're all
of this
aware.
experience, right?
Yeah.
Through which all experience is known. The awareness is aware. By the way, Bill, I just wanted to let you know I didn't get the link that you sent, so I just wanted you to know for whatever reason. I'm sure I'm on your mailing list, but obviously because I get everything else, but I didn't happen to get the link.
You didn't.
And I was just calling it anyway. So
okay. Okay.
I'm good.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I don't know what happened. I'm going to get on the phone with Webinar Jam and find out what happened when this is all finished. But just
Yeah, no
technology.
biggie. I just wanted to let you know that
Yeah,
so
thank
that
you.
you could make that correction.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Anyway, I'm totally loving my awareness is totally enjoying this experience of sharing itself through all these different communications that are going on. And Kimberly, the consumption digestion experience, I love that. And I love what you're sharing and the interaction that's the experience for me today is really expanding the experience. And so just to the notes that I was taking as this was all moving along here so beautifully, I thought the very first thing in the chapter is that it is not I, the body, that is aware. It is I, awareness, that is aware. And then on page 25, it says that in the second paragraph, indeed, there is no such thing as the mind or a mind. The only entity present in mind, if it is called an entity, is awareness or consciousness itself. And awareness or consciousness never ends. So as I'm reading and experiencing my life in this book, my mind, my cognitive mind learned how to read. It learned, language and whatever. So it's servicing me in allowing, for me, I'm sharing Rupert's, my awareness is being connected to through Rupert's awareness of awareness. So I'm experiencing awareness as itself through these words.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that is clear to anyone, but so I'm not going to my mind. My mind will try and answer a question, but it only has a limited amount of information. It's like anything, anytime you ask a question, the mind will go searching for an answer because that's its nature, at least in the cognitive aspect of mind. So as I read all of this and I can feel my awareness itself is aware of itself through the words. And I can feel the excitement of, oh, you feel me? Here I am. Do you feel my love? Do you feel that? And so for myself, at the end of the chapter, I wrote a note to myself, and it said, it is awareness aware of itself alone that is simultaneously aware of assuming a finite mind in order to know Andrea and Andrea's world. Awareness is simultaneously itself and Andrea with no distance or separation from subject/object of Andrea, world, self as awareness.
Yes.
So it is.
Yes.
That's how I experienced myself this idea of self, which is this awareness, and there's not a separate Andrea. It's all happens simultaneously, and it's working as one to know itself by itself. It's waking up I have to use dualistic ways of talking, right? We all are doing that.
Yeah.
To open that part that is all knowing. It says, I am the awareness that, so I am the awareness that does the digestion of the mind's integration of the information. So the mind will read the words, but it is my awareness, in its awareness of itself, that is being reminded of itself through these words, that I understand everything. I don't understand anything in my mind because my mind is too limited to accept it.
Yeah.
But the awareness that is aware of itself is aware of itself within what is being written here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is the knowing that's experiencing itself and awakening through the experience of the reading. And so I am the awareness because I am the awareness to which all experience is known.
Yes.
It's not the finite mind that's aware.
Yes.
It is I awareness, Andrea, and seeing itself. But just this process. It's sort of like, we have a dream at night, and I'll ask, I've asked myself, some people say, oh, worrying about the things they do in the world and, how they might have guilt or shame or need forgiveness and all these things. I think, well, when you have a dream at night, there are all these characters and circumstances and all these things that happen within that dream. I said, and we call it, I know everything is the same state, but just for conversation, we're calling it the dream there in this one, as Kimberly was so beautifully stated earlier. And that is that when I awake in the morning, I'm not worried about all the characters that were in that dream and what happened, and I don't have any worry about that. And to me, that is why there is no fear of death. It was just an experience. It's not, doesn't change who I am because I am awareness that's aware of itself. Mm-hmm. I am that changeless love. It's called changeless love in Course in Miracles. We're changeless love. I am the presence of love's awareness. I never change, but everything that I am aware of in the experience of being aware can change.
Yeah.
But I remain always just awareness.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome,
Well,
Andrea.
I love the way you described that, Andrea, and also as you were speaking, as you were you were sort of doing an explanation of the intimacy in relationship with our experience, with awareness and awareness experiencing itself. And I was coming to my own excitement in how intimate and juicy and delicious that sounds, because that is that makes you want to wake up in the morning. It makes me want to wake up and just start getting into what Rupert's sharing, just so I can come into the experience of the intimacy of it.
Yes, and at the same time, though, what's so fabulous and so wonderful is that Rupert isn't sharing anything with you that you are not already aware of. And as that realization occurs, that's the awareness being aware of itself.
Have you guys seen this?
Go anywhere for it. Does that feel?
Yes, totally. I feel so in touch with everything you're saying, and so thank you, Andrea, for just expressing it so beautifully from awareness, because I feel like you are speaking from awareness. And I keep remembering this movie. I don't know if you've seen a movie called Memento, but it's a movie about a person who has short-term memory loss, and they are involved in some complex circumstances which makes when their short-term memory loss
Kimberly,
kicks
can you
in.
say that
Yeah,
last bit
say
again?
say
Because
that
you
again.
cut
We
out.
lost you for a minute.
Okay, so
You said after, right after makes.
so this short-term memory loss makes this person have to leave notes or mementos to themselves all over the place so that they will remember who they are. So this person takes photos of themselves at each sort of juncture of their experience and puts them up so that when they forget, they will see a photo, a memento, and say, oh yeah, now I remember. And when you were describing the note, Andrea, that you wrote to yourself at the end of chapter 2, I thought to myself, awareness, because Rupert likens awareness to a rubber band, our this one consciousness to a rubber band. Our journey into separation, into the separate self, is like the stretching of this rubber band. And because we are only consciousness, we have this pull back to our awareness, back to our knowing, and we experience it as the pull toward happiness. Awareness itself is showing up in the form of Rupert and a book, and Bill and a book club, and Andrea and her voice as mementos for consciousness itself, for awareness itself to remember itself. Just as you wrote a note.
Right, because
right.
It can forget itself, and it also can remember itself.
Yeah.
Correct. And so I feel so excited. It's like the breadcrumbs, like Bill's talking about his joy. Well, and Andrea, I heard that same excitement of recognition. It's really, we're recognizing, we're re-knowing, remembering, meaning we're bringing the members of ourselves back together. There's such an excitement and joy, the prodigal son excitement and joy of coming home again. And we know we are on to something because the breadcrumbs, we are seeing our own mementos, awareness's mementos in the form of conversations like this. And that is why it feels so darn good to just, steep and soak with others in this type of contemplative discussion and sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Because we don't have awareness. We are awareness.
Yes.
And it's when I called in last week and talked about just noticing it, doing that practice, saying I am, and using always I am instead of I'm, and just owning I am, the I am that is, helps the one who feels separated. The idea of, for instance, I'll use myself as the idea of Andrea, to connect with the awareness that's aware of Andrea, and that's even, that goes right back into that note that Andrea is not separate from awareness, because awareness is aware of Andrea simultaneously as itself, having an experience of Andrea. So like the ones I dream at night, this idea of dreaming at night, all the characters that I dreamed at night. I mean, I'm in God's dream. God's dreaming Andrea. And an experience for Andrea. Like, I go to sleep at night and I dream, have all these different characters and experiences going on. And it's free and it's wild. It could be anything it wants. And so in those moments, and I'm a very lucid dreamer, so I watch my dreams, and I've been doing it for a long time. So take this it's actually the same experience I'm having in this so-called waking dream. I'm lucid watching Andrea experience awareness and awareness experience Andrea. So it's like, oh, it's so beautiful.
Wow. Sounds like a
It's
sounds like a
so
trip.
beautiful.
Good thing you don't. Good thing you're not into LSD. It might get a little bit.
Who needs it?
Right.
I'm tripping
Yeah.
already.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Yes.
I'm going on a
Uh,
trip and I don't even have to go anywhere.
I
I just
know.
have to
You don't need the.
be,
You
I
don't
just
need
have to
any
sit.
chemicals.
Awareness is the trip.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I love where. I mean, this is a really great conversation, and this is why. I mean, to me, awareness is such a is the most important thing to come into recognition of, and then also to allow it to be. Bring yourself into the. There's a way to experience from the experience of awareness, which is, in my mind, that it's what it's what everything is pointing to. It's what all the sages have always pointed to. It's what the course points to. It's what Rupert's pointing to, and it is to, when you practice this idea, you have understanding. You then practice, and this is why meditation is not trying to get to somewhere. It's the experience of being the experience of awareness, and in the experience of awareness, all conflict, all chaos, all conflictual experience is resolved right there, because it's in harmony with the divine essence and flow of what is, and it's not mixed in. It actually removes the obstacles of the finite self beliefs from participating in the experience of oneness, because what's not oneness can't participate in oneness. And it's the dream
Right. That's,
that we made up, that we have found, we've believed that we were separate, and that's where all the chaos came from. So as we come into the understanding of these ideas, we can quietly and gently be the presence of awareness, and all things can and will resolve perfectly right there as we allow it.
Mhm.
yes. And to that point is that what I've noticed in a lot of practices, in a lot of the ways, in part of my own personal experience was that trying, and again trying, I'm using the word on purpose in my practice. I have everybody throw that word away, because trying is a futuristic word. It means it hasn't happened, and we know that everything is happening. So if you take the word trying and you, like, I'm trying to understand, and you just change it to I am understanding, in that moment you'll understand more, because now you're not trying. Now you're owning that you are the awareness that is aware. And just taking removing certain words, like a word like trying. I'm trying to understand. That's the mind that's trying to understand something it will never understand. So awareness, when you ask a question, there's a difference between asking a question to the mind and then asking a question, to go to what you were saying, Bill. Ask a question, but don't look for the answer, because awareness, which is aware of all, through which all experience is known, will bring the answer into your awareness,
Right.
for you to know.
Yeah.
The mind will never be able to answer it. You can't. In other, it's not possible to have a spiritual experience by using the cognitive mind. It's by realizing that that's the obstacle. Because it was, it say on page 24 and 25, there was a couple things brought to and 25 says, mind is an activity of awareness. And on page 24, it says the belief, in the book it explains belief is equal to an opinion. Okay, so the belief or the opinion that awareness needs a mind in order to know itself is a common misunderstanding in the field known as consciousness studies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you go back over to 25 in the second paragraph, and it says, there is actually no, and I was reading that earlier, but right after it says, because consciousness never ends, mind only believes, which is the cognitive mind's opinion that awareness starts and ends, because it identifies awareness with limited and temporary body, which goes back to the idea of seeing it from a flea's point of view or a dog's point of view, or whatever the point of view is.
Yeah.
However, whatever that limited awareness is, or the experience of that awareness is how you will perceive it. But if you allow awareness to sit back and relax and let awareness bring the answer into your awareness, that always, for me, when those moments happen, and they happen, becomes a way of life, is that when they first start happening, it feels like you're having an epiphany. But part of it is the excitement of, but I knew that. Oh, there it is. There's the truth. Because the truth is always true. There's only one truth, and it's always been true.
Amen.
And again, awareness is only aware of there we are, right?
Right. Well, listen, we're about the end of
yeah.
our hour, and thank you, Andrea, for your comments. I'm going to close the mic, and thank you for joining us. And Kimberly, I just would love to hear your closing remarks on this chapter. How would you like to close your remarks on this chapter?
So I'm going to read just a couple of sentences, and this is appearing on page 26, right below the 3 asterisks. There's a paragraph that starts, everything appears to mind in accordance with mind's understanding of itself. As a man is, so he sees. As the eye is formed, such are its powers. Those 2 sentences are precisely the invitation that I feel Jesus invites me to in A Course in Miracles, is to decide, as I've heard often, from whose point of view am I choosing to have the experience I'm having? And depending on, what voice I'm listening to, am I listening to the voice of my deepest love and understanding, the Holy Spirit, or am I listening to the voice of the limited and finite separate self? That's going to tell me what it is I'm seeing. So first I have to know from whose point of view am I looking, and that will tell me what it is I'm seeing. And I think the power of Rupert is that he makes that distinction really, really clear for me, even in a way that I kept trying to understand in A Course in Miracles. Rupert has broken it down and spelled it out in a way that even I can, I get it now, and I know how to notice my point of view and realize that there's a way to shift it out of the personal and into awareness itself. So that's the joy, that's the gift, and that's actually the healing. And that's why Jesus says things like, there is no world, because everything I've been calling the world has simply been a reflection of my point of viewing, the point from which I am seeing.
Yep.
So that's what. And
Well,
and
thank
thank you,
you.
Bill. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kimberly, for coming on the show. I'd love to have you come back again. And thank you all for joining us. I know that many of you are watching this on replay because of the glitch that happened in the overnight. And we're going to be back on track. I'll get with Webinar Jam and find out what happened. But in the meantime, thank you all for being with us
Thank you,
on
everybody.
this awesome discovery in the nature of consciousness and Rupert's awesome book. Thank you all. I love you. And until next week. Oh, one quick note. Next week, we won't have call-ins because I'll be in California at Byron Katie, and I'll be doing the broadcast at 9 a.m. Pacific. I won't have my equipment to be able to do the voice to bring the callers in, and I won't have a guest because I just need to be able to keep it solo. No. I will have a guest. Amy Torres will be my guest next week, but we won't have the call-in feature. And then the following week, I'll still be at Byron Katie. I'm going to be there for 9 days, and I won't have the call-in feature the following week. And I won't have a guest the following week. But next week is Amy Torres. We won't have a call-in, and next week is panpsychism. Panpsychism. We got to wrap our minds around that one. So thank you all for joining, and I love you, and I bless you, and I thank God for you. Bye-bye. Bye, Kimberly.
Bye, Bill. Love you all.